Okay, everyone, if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Say that you can hear me, and if you can hear William, let me know if you can hear him. And I'm just going to wait for your responses here. And I'll type as well. Oh, okay. William has to hit the microphone blue button. William, see the microphone near where you. We're just waiting for William to turn his microphone on. Stand by.
How's that, Mike?
Now we hear you, William. There we go. All right. All right, William, you're you can start sharing your screen. And everybody, if you can hear me, I hear you saying I can hear Mike. Do you hear William now? William, just do a test and then we can get started.
Okay, everyone, I apologize for that. Does everybody hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. Let's see. Chop, chop, it's 207. Okay. Okay, they can hear us both, and they hear William. All right, William, go ahead, share your screen. Hey, folks, we tried to do this on Wednesday. We had some tech difficulties with Webinar Jam sending a signal to you guys, so we're doing it again today. Quick introduction: William's actually my CEO coach now over 2.5 years, or about 2 years now, and we have done some incredible things together. And in fact, William has built 4 rapid growth companies, a few that he's owned, some that he was CEO of. And when you meet somebody that knows several times how to build 8 and 9 figure companies worth $100 million and then being able to be sold for more. There are some great practices that you can learn. There are foundations that you need to start at the beginning of even a business doing $500 or $1,500 a month. And the most important thing is how you scale that business, how you fund that business while maintaining control. And that's what we're going to be going over with you today. So I'm going to turn it over to William. William, if you need any help sharing your screen, let me know, and then we can jump in and get started.
I thought I shared the screen. Am I sharing the screen, or is it not displaying?
No, we're not seeing it.
Okay. How about that?
Nope.
Okay. I'm probably going to need some help here then.
Okay, stand by, everyone. We'll be right back. William, and by the way, everyone, William is right next door to me this time so that we can make sure everything goes smooth. So I'm just going to walk over to the next office. Be right back.
Should be that one there. Then you should go into presentation. Play. Should be good. Okay, everyone. Hopefully everybody can still hear me, and hopefully we've got this set up properly that we're going to be able to give you a great training today. Now, I want to tell everyone, this is not your usual webinar. This is not a business opportunity. This is not e-commerce. This is not selling real estate. This is not about info products. This is for anyone who has a business. This is for the entrepreneur. This is so important that you need to pay full attention. So please close Skype, Facebook, Instagram, any other social media you may have open. Get someone to look after the kids. Turn off your phones, text messengers, etc. Get a pen and paper, and let's get going. Oops, what did I do now?
You're good, William. We see the screen.
Good. Okay, so in today's training, what I'm going to teach you is everything you need to know to build a $10 million company. And if you choose to grow it to a $50 or $100 million company, you can use this training for that as well. And how to raise capital quickly without giving up control of your company. Even if you've never built a 7-figure company, even if you've never built a 6-figure company, even if you're an employee of a company right now. Now, if I promise to teach you highly valuable lessons, do I have your permission to take 10 minutes to give you a great offer to consider? If that sounds fair, type yes in the chat. This is all up to you, and I won't do it unless I give you something you can use in your business today and only with your permission. And, oh, by the way, we have a free bonus for everyone. For sticking around until the end, I will give you this free bonus. At the end of this event, at the end of the training and the Q&A, you'll get my book, 6 Secrets to Scaling Your Company. And there's full of great information in that book. Now, to begin with, I want to tell you a quick story about how we came up with a name for our company, Antirion. And when I started the company, I got some of my executives that I use when I build new companies together, and we spent like 3 days doing a brainstorming session on what the company was going to be about, how we were going to do it. And the first thing we created was a tagline, bridging entrepreneurs' knowledge, strategies, and profits. And from that tagline, I said, I really like bridging it. It is so much what we're going to be doing. So we put a big search out, and we started searching the world to find the name of a bridge where we could grab the URL and be able to use that URL for us. We came across the Antirion Bridge. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the Antirion Bridge is incredibly special. The Antirion Bridge spans the Gulf of Corinth in Greece. And if you don't know anything about the Gulf of Corinth, believe it or not, this is where 2 tectonic plates meet. And so the Gulf expands an average of 4 to 5 millimeters a year. Now, that may not seem like much to you, but as far as bridges go, that's a huge amount of change every year. So they had to design this bridge to be able to deal with this type of expansion in the Gulf. Now, the thing is, the first thing they did was went down to the seafloor to see what type of bedrock they had there for putting these pylons on for the bridge. And when they got down to the bottom of the seafloor, they discovered the seafloor was all rubble. After centuries of all this seismic activity, there was no bedrock there. So the engineers came up with a concept, and they decided to drive 200 hollow steel pipes underneath the position of each pylon. And then what they did was they laid down a meticulously flat bed of gravel on top of those 200 hollow steel pipes. The pylons were then prefabricated, and they were made with a flat base. And what they did was they lowered that pylon onto the flat bed of gravel. And so now whenever there's any tectonic activity, the seafloor can rattle, shake, and roll, do all of its stuff. But the pylon, its flat base, is just going with the flow because the gravel's acting like ball bearings. Now, next thing you might notice is there's mountain ranges. Well, there's mountain ranges on both sides of the Gulf, okay? And they have these very strong winds, 70-plus mile-an-hour winds blowing down here on a fairly regular basis. And if you know anything about harmonics, wind harmonics can actually tear down bridges. It's done it many times. So they had to design these pylons and all the rest of the stuff so that the harmonics would never hurt the bridge. And the next big thing that they had to deal with, this is a major shipping lane going underneath this bridge, and they have super tankers going along. And they had to make sure that if a super tanker hit one of these pylons, that it wouldn't take down the bridge. So they had all these various challenges in this bridge and designing and building this bridge. And doesn't that resonate with you? Doesn't that make you remember all the challenges you face in building your company? Well, it resonated with me, and that's why we chose the name Antirion for our company. So that's just a short story about our company name and how we came up with it. So who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, let me tell you, I grew up on a ranch in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. And if you know anything about ranching or farming, you know there's no such thing as cash. So at the ripe old age of 11, I went out and I got a business. And what I got was a paper route. And when I got that paper route, there was 44 papers on that route. And over the next few years, I built that route to 186 papers on that same stretch of road. Now, after I gave up the paper route, I did a bunch of other entrepreneurial things all the way through school. And after graduation, like most people, I went out and got a job. And it didn't take me very long to figure out that a job was not for me. You know, I decided to go start my own company, and luck was on my side. I had some very great people working with me, and I founded and I grew 4 rapid growth companies. But believe me, it wasn't all roses. I mean, I had to do analysis. I had to do discovery. I had to learn from others. And what I learned was there's 8 primary internal practices every company must have to achieve success. Then there's 4 primary external practices that they must have to achieve massive success. And then I also learned the fastest way to create real wealth. So if any of you ever felt like your job was like being in prison, well, what I'm going to share with you is a lot of stuff today. As I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur of 4 rapid growth companies. I built 2 manufacturing companies, a high-tech company, and a service company. 2 of them I took to over $100 million. I've been a board member of private, public, and nonprofit companies. I'm on the board of the Angel Pool organization, where we syndicate deals between over 200 angel networks. I'm a member of the Angel Capital Association. I'm referred to as a rapid growth CEO and the professional CEO. I'm the trusted authority for business performance. And with over 20 years of coaching and training entrepreneurs, I become globally recognized as a business growth coach. I'm a best-selling author and an international keynote speaker. So I learned the hard way about a lot of things. But now you're going to have the opportunity to cheat. You can learn only the good stuff without wasting the years and expenses that I had to endure to learn all of this stuff. These are all lessons that I learned from building those 4 rapid growth companies. Okay? Although I would like to say it's all roses, it's not. But I can say with every company, it became easier as I learned from my mistakes. And that's what I'm going to help you do, is avoid all those mistakes I learned. I'm going to share with you today some of the most valuable lessons I learned, and you're really going to discover the greatest stuff during the years of my mistakes. Have you ever wondered if all the great opportunities have been taken? Let me tell you, there has never been a better time to start or scale your company. After 10 years of a weak economy, the tide is turning, and we are entering an entrepreneur bull market. Banks are lending again. Disposable income is growing. Consumers are buying. Do you know in 2010, the global economists got together and it was determined that the global GDP in 2010 was $60 trillion? Think about that. $60 trillion. Do you know at that time they predicted that by 2040, the global GDP will have grown to $200 trillion? Yeah, $200 trillion, from 60 to 200 in just 30 years. And we're a good portion of the way through that. Now, in 2015, when they did their analysis, they determined the global GDP had already grown to $75 trillion. So we know that the emerging growth countries out there are growing at 6.6 to 8.6% annually. The global GDP is growing at 4.2%, and disruptive change creates opportunity. Not going to get into this too much right now, but I do want to talk about angel investors and super angel investors, venture capital, corporate partners, grants, and private equity. We're going to be going through all this. There are so many different forms of capital out there, and most people don't know what they're about. So, now, I want to share with you, I know many people are failing. but it's not your fault. Okay. You're not alone. I am a friend of Sir Richard Branson and have spent time with him. And he says even the greatest entrepreneur had help. And I think he was referring to himself, but I think there's a lot of great entrepreneurs out there. Remember, I was just like you once upon a time. I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge. I didn't have a whole lot of experience, but I've gained it over the decades. Yeah, I've been building companies for over 40 years, so I've got a lot to share. And I've interviewed many other founders of $100 million companies who agree with what I'm going to teach you. I learned the hard way, and my goal with today's training is to help you learn lessons that no one else teaches you. Can you imagine what your life would be like as a founder of my newest book? Okay. All of these people have built $100 million companies. So you would never have to worry about having enough money every month. No longer worry about sales being below your target. To know your company is growing rapidly. To know you will soon be living where the 1% live. To know you're creating good, sustainable jobs. To know real freedom. In this book is really interesting because the thing that really has resonated to me in the interviewing of these over 15 founders of $100 million companies is half of these founders are only high school graduates. The other half have some level of college degree. But you know what? None of that had anything to do with their success. In the end, each and every one of them achieved their success because they are passionate about what they're doing. And as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, you can grow your company as well. So I want to talk to you about real facts that have been brought together. There's a Harvard Business School, the Forbes, SBA, and the Kauffman Foundation have all done research and reports on entrepreneurs and what are the two primary reasons businesses fail. And those reports all came together and had the same conclusion. Number one is lack of experience. Okay? That's one of the biggest reasons companies fail. Number two is insufficient capital. These are the two reasons that companies fail. And we help you solve both of these reasons. Okay? Do you want to know the 3 strategies to massive success? Well, here are the 3 strategies I'm going to teach you. Number 1 is the 8 primary internal practices every company must have to achieve success. Number 2 is the 4 primary external practices to achieve massive success. And number 3 is the wealth that you will find in a cap table. How we succeed? It's through the 8 primary internal practices. Now, the first practice is you, the founder, the visionary, the president of your company. You're the person that has the passion and the vision that solves a problem. And yes, when you solve a problem, you've got a source of great wealth. Number 2 is marketing. Now, everybody knows what marketing is. I'm sure all of you have studied marketing to a great detail. But the thing is, I want people to understand marketing has one job and only one job. Its job is to find and attract prospects. Now, there is a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in marketing that many of you don't understand and don't know. And that's with regards to market research to determine where your target market is and all different types of stuff that's going on. We're going to train you about a lot of those things and some of the stuff that we do. I could talk about marketing for a day and a half by itself. So when you think you're marketing and you're doing stuff on Facebook, that's only one small piece of what you're doing. Number 3 is sales. Sales' job is to convert prospects into customers. That's all sales does. Okay? They don't go out and find the prospects. All they do is convert them into customers. And that's why salespeople are so essential and so valuable to you. And I know all the companies we work with, there's been companies try to do marketing, just do it through social media and other forms of marketing and have the sale happen online. And you're going to get a certain percentage of sales online. That's actually referred to as impulse buyers. Those people are going to be the impulse buyers. But you know, that only works out to about 9% of the people. And then there's a whole bunch of other people. There's, I think it's 28% altogether between impulse buyers and sales that will convert into clients when you see them. Now, the next thing is operations. And operations is responsible for delivering the product or service the company sells. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wearing all 4 of these hats, okay? And that's where problems happen, is because people wear too many hats in small companies, and it gets them into difficulties. The next thing is finance. And finance ensures the company is paid, but more importantly, it makes sure that you've got real margin, so you're actually generating real profit. Now, when we work with companies, our goal is to make sure that they're all netting at least 20% EBITDA or net profit at the end of every year, after the founder of the business has made a salary commensurate with the size of the company that they built. And so it's all about achieving success for everybody, okay? And finance is an area that many companies fail on. The next area is human resources. Now, a lot of small businesses don't think they need human resources. And the problem is that human resources is not about hiring and firing people. Human resources' real value to a company is making sure everybody in the company is properly trained for the job that they're doing inside the company, number one. But number two, making sure everybody is properly trained so they understand how everybody else works together in the company and where you create synergy. When you've got a good human resources department, you create harmony and synergy for everybody in the company. The next area is information technology. Now, you probably are all much more knowledgeable on technology than I am, but I want to share with you, technology is so important. It's not just knowing your computer systems and your networks and different stuff that goes on, your websites, landing pages, and all that, but there's stuff out there called ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning. ERP is essential because ERP has over 20 modules in it, and it tracks everything that goes on inside the company. So as your company grows, you want to add more and more ERP. You don't need all the modules to begin with, but you start off with a few basic modules and add them on as your business grows. And it makes all the difference in the world, because it's all about being able to track everything that happens in your company. And that's what ERP does. Now, the next thing is quality assurance and quality control. Quality assurance and quality control touch every department in the company. And that's why we've put them on the rim of the wheel, okay? They document everything. They document the processes and the controls, the policies and procedures. There's just a lot of stuff that they do that most companies don't know about. And when every practice in this wheel is strong, the wheel keeps rolling along and gaining velocity. However, when any practice becomes weak, the wheel begins to wobble and the business eventually breaks. You know, it's like having a broken spoke on your bicycle or something. That's what happens. Okay. Now, I want to talk about training versus education. And the reason this is so important is because I want you to understand the difference in your company and the people you employ in the company. We have the first 3 layers of people in the company, and these are all people that are trained. They're trained to recall facts and basic concepts. They're able to explain ideas. They're able to use information in new situations. They execute things. They do things. They're basically your staff. Okay? And then you've got the next level of people. And these are the people that we consider educated. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be formally educated. A lot of people are self-educated and do great jobs. But it's about drawing connections among ideas, justifying how to put a stand or a decision together, producing new or original work. Now, one of the analogies we use with this is like in the military. Your people that are trained are like the soldiers. You know, they're trained how to clean their guns, how to shoot their guns, how to aim, how to do all that different stuff. But the the officers, they're trained to come up with strategies and tactics and all different types of things so that soldiers can succeed at winning what they're doing. And that's the same thing that you have to do in your business. You have to create the strategies and the tactics and do all this other stuff so that your staff can help you achieve great success. Now, for those of you that don't know Gallup, I want to tell you that Gallup is the preeminent research firm in the world. Its customers are primarily governments. It also does work with the Fortune 100 companies, but not very much else. But Gallup has been around for 80 some odd years now, and they do a tremendous amount of research. And one of the things they've researched about is what percentage of the population have the innate entrepreneur gene. They actually spent 47 years doing this research and discovered that there's only 2.5% of the population have the innate entrepreneur gene. So all of you that are on this presentation, you're definitely one of that 2.5%. And then there's 97.5% of the population that just want a job. And that's great for you because you need those staff. You need those people that are going to work for you and help you grow your company, because nobody can build a $10 million company by themselves. You got to have a team. Okay. Now, one of the reasons this resonates with me so much is I remember the first time I received a CV or a resume from a person that had an Ivy League MBA. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm a high school graduate. I don't have any college degree. Okay. Everything I've learned from the School of Hard Knocks and self-education. And this guy applied for this job. At that time, my company was about 30 million in revenue. And I'm looking at his resume, and he's worked out these Fortune 100 companies. He's got all this stuff, all these credentials. He's just phenomenal. I'm like, why does he want to work for me? Why isn't he out there building his own company? But I ended up hiring him, and he turned out to be an incredibly great employee. He didn't cost me an arm and a leg, but man, did he help the company grow. And you know what? That's because I didn't understand this 97.5% of the population that just want a job. They don't have that entrepreneurial spirit. So when you've got the entrepreneurial spirit, you want to find those geniuses that can help you scale and grow your business. So now the next section I'm going to talk about is the 4 primary external practices. Okay, and these are all extremely important. The first one is accountability and oversight. And yes, as entrepreneurs, we do not like the idea of having to be accountable to anybody. Okay? We think we have it all. But the fact of the matter is, we don't. We all mess up all the time. So if you get an outside board of directors, that outside board of directors brings accountability to you, the founder and owner of your business. And that outside board of directors can help you in ways you'll never believe. And I'm going to get into more of that detail in a little bit. But I want you to understand, an outside board of directors is incredibly valuable to your company and how it grows. And yes, you may cringe at the idea of being accountable to anybody, but believe me, that accountability is what's going to help your business grow and achieve even greater success. Now, the next area that we're going to talk about is good corporate governance and compliance. Most people I talk to, if I talk about corporate governance, they don't even know what corporate governance is. And it's very, very important that you understand corporate governance, because it's what protects you from getting yourself into trouble. That's the same thing with compliance. As everybody knows, we got 3 layers of government in this country. We got the federal government, we got the state government, and then we have more than that, because we have county governments, we have city governments, we got all this stuff that goes on. And we have to comply with all their laws and all their rules and all their regulations. And you know, a lot of times their laws contradict each other, and you can get into trouble because you're complying with one law and you're not in compliance with another law. And we've learned a lot of lessons in that process. And that's why we encourage businesses when they're scaling and growing to make sure they get a national law firm. We don't discourage the use of small law firms and stuff for certain projects and bases. But if you really want to scale and grow your company, a national law firm is going to be incredibly valuable to you and helping you achieve great success. The next thing is fiscal accountability. And that's where, you know, you have outside accountants working with your inside accountant, and you have audit firms, and you have all this other stuff going on that some people feel is scary. But you know what? If you do it from the beginning, if you start with it in the early days of your company, it's very inexpensive, and all the processes and controls and policies and procedures that the quality assurance people love, you start adapting them and putting them into the business as you grow. Okay. And it's very, very economical to do it from the beginning, where it becomes very burdensome if you try doing it later on as the company ages. Now, I want to stop for a second and get you to think about these 3 primary external practices, because this next thing I'm going to share with you is more valuable than everything else that I've shared with you today so far. And that is, when you've got all 3 of these external practices in place, guess what? These board members that you're going to be using, it's not going to be friends, and it's not going to be family. It's not going to be just somebody you know. It's got to be somebody that has real knowledge, experience, and contacts, okay? The law firms, when you're dealing with a national law firm, guess what? Those people are dealing with the big companies. They're dealing with high net worth individuals. They're dealing with all types of stuff that goes on. And then the same thing is true for outside accounting firms. Again, when you're using a national accounting firm, they're dealing with the big companies. They're dealing with the high net worth individuals. They're dealing with all this stuff. And guess what? As you build your relationship with these 3 primary practices and the people that you're working within them, they get to like you. They get to understand what you're doing. They get to understand your integrity, and they will start introducing you to really high net worth individuals, to corporations, to other things. They'll open doors for you that you never dreamed of, and you will find your business exploding in size very quickly. Okay? These are things that can really help you. Now, the next thing is business guidance. And that's where you use outside coaches. As we talked about earlier, the Kauffman Foundation, Harvard, and all these guys, they tell you point blank, the number 1 reason businesses fail is lack of experience. And that's what your outside business coach does for you. Okay? This is so important. And by the way, these business coaches, a lot of business coaches, if they've got any caliber, they've got contacts too with high net worth people and companies, and can help open doors as well, but not at the same level that the first 3 are. So those are the 4 primary external practices that you must know about and understand. Now, I'm going to move on to some additional training. You know, capital is the lifeblood of every company. And I want you to understand there's many different sources of capital. There's friends and family, there's credit cards, there's banks, there's SBA loans, there's private lenders, there's strategic partners, there's angel investors, there's venture capital, there's private equity groups, there's mezzanine capital, there's grants, and the list goes on and on. And I'm going to share with you a little bit today about some of this, okay? Now, what I'm going to be talking to you about today is the practice cap table. Now, for those of you that don't know what a cap table is, it's all about valuation versus dilution and how you can raise capital and make your company grow faster. And that's what it's all about. The faster you grow it, the wealthier you get. Now, you've noticed I've highlighted some stuff in yellow, and that's founders, and you're going to see this stuff highlighted in yellow all the way through. The reason is I want to show you what happens as we continue to grow this business. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to issue stock to the founders. And we're going to issue the founders 1 million shares just for a round number. Now, whether you're an LLC or a corporation, it's all relevant because you can have membership units, you can have stock units, you can have all different types of things. I could get into the technical stuff, but that's not something I want to do right now. So we always recommend that the founders set aside 10% of whatever they take for themselves for key executives that you're going to want to hire as you're growing your company, okay? So you get 1 million shares of stock in your company, and then you set aside this 100,000 shares. Now, that stock's not actually issued because they changed the rules and regulations, the IRS did, but it's set aside, and at some point in time, it will be issued, okay? So you'll effectively own 90.91% of your company from day one.
And William, if you have 3 founders, it's still 1 million shares, and then it'd be 330,000 shares per founder. So it wouldn't be 1 million shares per founder. It's all the founders would split that million.
That's correct, Mike.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Okay. And whether it's 2 founders, 3 founders, 4 founders. And again, I'd be love to get into a conversation with people about that, and we can talk about that at a later time. So what we're going to assume is you've issued 1 million shares to yourself, and that you're going out and building the company. You've got it to a certain level, and you get to that level, and then you say, hey, I've proven that this concept works and that there's a real business here. And so now you want to raise some money to help you take the company to the next level. Well, we're going to make the assumption that you're going to raise $1 million. And then there's what they call a pre-money valuation. Now, a pre-money valuation is based upon the concept that you've got, how much proof you've built into it, have you actually generated real revenue? There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into the pre-money valuation, and I could talk about that for several hours too. But we're just using an example here. So we're going to say the pre-money valuation in this case is $5.5 million, and it's not that difficult to get a $5.5 million pre-money valuation. So what you do is you add the $1 million you've raised to the pre-money valuation to come up with a post-money valuation of $6.5 million. So now what happens is the founder has dropped in ownership down to 76.92%, okay, from the basically 91% they're at earlier. But guess what? Their net worth is now $5 million because they own 1 million shares. And if you look down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that your share price was $5 a share. So you sold those shares at $5 a piece, which means you sold 200,000 shares. So now your total issued shares are 1,300,000 shares. Okay. And this is the normal way that businesses grow and do it. I mean, whether you talk about Google or Apple or Microsoft or any of them, they all went through this process when they were started. I'm not saying all of you guys or any of you guys are going to end up being multi-billion-dollar companies, but there's always that potential. Okay. Now, the next thing is we're going to say you use that $1 million really wisely and you help grow the company a whole bunch. And now you need to raise some more money to grow it a whole bunch more. Now, since you use that money really wisely, what's happened is now the pre-money valuation has grown from $5.5 million to $26 million. Okay? Now you're raising $4 million instead of $1 million. You're still only selling 200,000 shares, but now those 200,000 shares are being sold at $20 a share. So guess what? That founder's million shares we started with is now worth $20 million. So your net worth has now grown to $20 million.
Okay,
and
this
if
is
you've got partners in there, then it's divided amongst the partners.
And this is where I want to jump in, because I think most people, when they see William, their company at the beginning, right? And I know what's coming in the slides ahead, talking about how you still maintain control and how you can become a millionaire or even a billionaire. And we're going to surprise people with, some famous CEOs and what they actually own in their company, and how some of them can be, as Bezos, we know right now the richest man in the world. But here's what I really want to highlight here. In the middle of the row, it says founders, and there's still 66% of the company, but now it's worth 20 million. And this is normally the vision where people have at the beginning, William, in my opinion. It's like, hey, if we can build a company to $5 million, we can probably sell it for 20 million. Well, wouldn't it be better to have raised money and have your company worth 20 million and still own 60% of it? And just one more thing I want to talk about, William, is when you said, okay, we went out and we raised money, we raised $1 million. And then, I think you said the second round, we raised 4 million in round two. So I think it's a total of 5 million. And you say we use that to grow the company. Here's where I want people to understand. William showed a wheel before with the eight business practices, and there was sales, there was research and development, there was marketing, all these different things. And when you want to build a company, first you're envisioning a $10 million company, and then taking that $10 million company to $100 million company. That's where things grows. I believe that anyone on this call, that's an entrepreneur, has the right grit, and follows the proper blueprint. And obviously, you need your intelligence, and I'm assuming we all have what it takes to get there. What it takes to build a $10 million company and a $100 million company are two different things. And here's what I've learned from that. A $10 million company is something you can do yourself and feel like you're on top of the world. When you take that $10 million company and start growing it to 15 or $20 million company, without outside investment and getting the proper management in place to run those 8 other spokes for you, what ends up happening is you start hating the monster that you created. It starts to consume you. You start, feeling like, oh, if, they start asking you questions at the support desk, and you feel like you're making every decision in the company because that's the way you started from the beginning. And now you're at the point where you can't scale. And that's where a lot of times where people, they end up selling, and they end up selling for a little bit less than they want to. But what ends up happening is when you want to grow to 150, from 10 million to 100 million, there's a very key point that happens. You need to go out, you need to get world-class people that want two things. They want a good salary, usually starting between minimum 125, 150,000 up to 250 and 300,000. And then they want shares of the company. And guess what? If you took the right advice from William, you already put 1 million shares aside that you can go out and get these key people. See, the problem is, though, when you start getting ahead of marketing, ahead of sales, ahead of accounting, research development, and technology, a CTO, a CFO, a CMO, basically all these different people, what ends up happening is you're just going to now add maybe another $2 to $3 million to your payroll. and you start looking at your profits of your 20 million, and you're like, well, I was making myself 4 million. Now, if I go out and hire all these people, I'm going to take a pay cut and I'm going to go to $1 million a year. And you end up seeing a conflict here. And the conflict is make less money to bring these people on, or just do it all myself and get burnt out. See, what happens when you go out and raise this money and you raise the 5 million, you want to hire people that have done this before. You want to hire people that in their lane, the marketing, the sales, have been part of 2 or 3 or 4 companies that have already grown from 10 million to 100 million. And you can just separate at this point and become what William and I both believe that you should be, is the CEO, the visionary. And one thing I've learned from William, and William, I don't know if this metaphor is correct, but this is how I look at it. The difference between a president and a CEO, from what I've learned from William, is I want you to imagine that there's a pyramid and you're standing at the top of the pyramid, and as the pyramid base goes down, everything inside the pyramid, that is the job of the president of the company. His job is to make sure that everything that we have decided currently that we want to do, the current vision of the company, the president's job is basically to make sure that the day-to-day operations, the operations person is going to be directly underneath the president. And that person is there to make sure everything that we've set out to do runs perfectly in this company, in all the departments, financing, marketing, sales. It's the president's job. The CEO's job is a little bit different. The CEO knows the president is doing the day-to-day. The CEO says, my job is to take the base of that pyramid and widen it. And that's to go out and find new ways that the company can make more money. Strategic partnerships, adding new product lines. See, the president can't be focused on that stuff. He needs to be making sure that the operations are going perfectly through it. The CEO is the visionary. And William, I saw a very interesting story, and I think everybody here will find it very interesting. There's 2 competing companies, and anybody living in the U.S. knows of these. But believe it or not, I know CVS has grown internationally. CVS and Walgreens have been in competition now probably for about 40 years, but really in the last 15 years is when they've been really, really growing. The big difference is that Walgreens considers itself a pharmacy company, and recently CVS has changed its name to CVS Health. And Walgreens right now is the 75th largest company in the world. And the 14th largest company in the world, I think people would be shocked to hear this, is actually CVS. And the difference between Walgreens and CVS is Walgreens saw themselves as a pharmacy and said, we can expand by stores and make our stores more profitable. CVS decided to go away from being a convenience store, pharmacy store, and going into the health space. And by doing that, and because they had a proper CEO that wasn't simply saying, how do we get more money from our current marketplace, they said about 6 years ago, because they had a brilliant CEO, if we change ourselves to a health company, and if you're wondering why they were on the news a few years ago of getting rid of cigarettes at their store, which accounted for 4% of their sales, because they wanted to rebrand themselves as a health company. They ended up buying Minute Clinic, and just recently they're buying Aetna, one of the largest health insurance companies in the United States. And they're becoming so big that the federal government is now standing in. It's a fascinating story. What they've realized is they can revolutionize medicine. And William, you talked to me, hey, go see a doctor. Now you'll be able to walk into a CVS, go to a Minute Clinic, get your insurance taken care of, and get a prescription all in one place. And so that is something that only a CEO can do, and having the right people in the company. So William, I know this was a long tangent, but I wanted, when you said, so you can go out and raise money and help grow the business, this is what help growing a business is. It allows you as a CEO to step back and see how can you take a company, and you look at like HubSpot. 7-8 years ago, HubSpot was a company that would rank your social score online and tell you how important you were based on your followers. Today, HubSpot is one of the leading CRM marketing firms in the world because they were able to raise money and let their CEO say, it doesn't matter what the current map says is if we get the right people on board, we can take this thing anywhere. So William, I'll turn it back over to you, but I really wanted people to understand how important it is to get the right people, and what, when you say raise money to help grow the company, this is what makes the CEO's life simpler, because he has the right captains on board with him, and allows him or her to really achieve their dreams when they say, hey, I want world domination, I want to take over. This is how it's done. And then if anybody here has a question and says, well, I'm a little bit concerned about giving up this much of my company, well, don't worry, it gets better. We're going to give up even more of your company, but we're going to see how you still maintain control and still get wealthy. And William, I'll turn it back over to you on that.
Hey, Mike, thanks. You made some very, very valid points, but I also want to help everybody understand some of the points you made, because, one of the things you talked about was getting to, say, $5 or $10 million company. Some people might think that, hey, if I get my company to $5 million, I'll sell it and go retire. Well, let me tell you two things. Number one, it's extremely difficult to sell a company under $100 million and get a decent valuation on it. It may be around the $70, $80 million revenue level. You can get a decent valuation, but the majority of times when people sell a company that's worth, say, $6 to $10 million, or even 15 or 20, when they end up selling it, they end up carrying back a large piece of the value of the company in the form of a loan. And then if that new person that buys the company fails, guess what? That loan is worthless. So then a lot of times the founder has to go back in and fix the mess that the seller created, and it becomes a real nightmare. And that's why we encourage people to go beyond that. The other thing I want to share with you, since you brought this stuff up already, is that, a lot of companies, you'll see a lot of companies out there that they've hit a glass ceiling. They've made it to $5 million or $8 million or $12 million, and they can't seem to get past that. And like you mentioned earlier, Mike, that's because they don't have the right people on their team, or they don't have a full team. And this happens all the time. And it's, we love to help those type of people, help them scale and grow, figure out what they're doing wrong so they can. And it always sounds easy. It sounds like, wow, if my company was $5 million or $10 million, man, I just lived a lap of luxury. The fact of the matter is, even if your company's $10 million and you got 20% net profit, that means $2 million net profit. You have no idea the amount of headaches that you have in managing that company, because you can't afford at that level to hire the executive staff you really need. And you kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier, Mike. You just can't hire the really talented people you need. And so you end up having to be involved every single day. So I'm going to continue on with it, because I want everybody to understand that I want them to get to a $10 million company. And then I want them to understand that there's a stepping stone past that $10 million level should they decide to go there. With that being said, we've just mentioned that. So now the founders are at $20 million valuation. Okay. And again, they've used up that $4 million that they raised in this round. So now they need to go back out and raise more capital. And this time we're going to assume that they've raised another $10 million. Okay. Now, this time they've sold 250,000 shares at $40 a share. Okay. And again, we take a look at the founders. The founders have now been diluted down to 57.14% of the company, but their net worth has grown to $40 million. Okay. And let's take a look at the round one investors. The round one investors put in $1 million, but now their $1 million is worth $8 million. Do you know what happens? When you go out to raise round two, the majority of time, round one investors will be a big part of your round two group, because they're so happy with what you've done. they'll invest in round two, even though round two was 4 times more expensive than round one, because they see where you're going and what's happening. So you will get support. You will get all the things you're looking for. Okay. So again, the company has grown in value. And the more important thing is the founder is now worth a whole lot more money. And one of the things that we've talked about in other conversations, Mike, from round 3 and on, you're in a position where you can, what they refer to as, take some money off the table. So now let's say you've used that $10 million really wisely, and you're going out for your next round of capital raise. And let's assume you're raising $20 million this time. On this $20 million raise, if you wanted to, you could turn around and say, hey, I want to take $2 million off the table. So you've got the ability to issue this round. And out of that $20 million, the company can end up getting $18 million, and you can end up taking $2 million for yourself and put it in your bank account and walk away. There are tax implications to this, but that's effectively what you can do. Now, that $20 million round, again, you've sold another 250,000 shares, but this time the shares are at $80 a share. So if you don't sell any stock, now your million shares is going to be worth $80 million. Okay. You take a look at your round one investors, they're up to $16 million. They've made 16 times the return on their investment, and they're happier than heck. Okay. Again, you're building your team. You got a very smart team, and you're using the money you raise wisely on each round. So now we're going to assume you do another round. And this time we're going to say you're going to do a $50 million raise. Now, when your company becomes worth more than $100 million, that's when you can consider doing an IPO. You could take the company public. And there's lots of different ways of doing that. You could exit the company. You could actually sell the company to a bigger company, because now you'll actually have buyers that are willing to pay $370 million for your company. Or you could just continue growing it. Okay. Because there's a lot of times where people get to this point and they say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to private equity, and I'm going to borrow money from private equity. I'm going to buy out all my investors. So there's just going to be me and the private equity people. There's so many variables. Sometimes you can even go to the bank and get the money from the bank. I could talk about money for days and days. Okay. But what I want you to realize is you do this next round, the founders are now below the 50% mark, but they're worth $160 million. There's nothing to worry about being below 50% mark. You know why? First of all, your round one investors are 8.65% of the voting stock. So you add that to your 43% and you're over 50%. Those guys have taken their $1 million and it's now worth $32 million. You got to know that they're going to back you all the way, because they're happier than heck with everything you've been doing. And then probably the same thing with round two investors and round three. So just because you don't have absolute control of the company isn't true. You do have absolute control of the company, because you will have people that are going to support you. And that includes your management team that also owns a percentage of the company as well. So
they want you around. They invest. The reason why they're giving you money is they're buying in you and your management team. So that's why, Bill Gates, was part of his company. Until he decided to retire. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they have control of the company, and they're able to raise money because people bet on the founders and the management team.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those people. Okay, here's Jeff Bezos. He's worth $112 billion approximately. Mark Zuckerberg, $71 billion. Larry Page, he's worth $58 billion. Elon Musk is worth $20 billion. Okay, now we're going to ask you, everybody, put it in the chat box, what percentage of Amazon do you think Jeff Bezos owns. Okay?
Cheating here. No
Yes,
go.
I'm going to cheat.
Not you. You can cheat. I don't want anybody here to cheat. Do us a favor. Type in the chat what percentage of Amazon. Oh, well, we got the answer right there.
I've given the answer. Sorry, I
That's
jumped
okay.
ahead of you, Mike.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's about Mark Zuckerberg, though.
All right. Yeah. Don't go to Google and look it up. But what? Type in the chat what percentage you think Mark Zuckerberg owns of Facebook, or Larry Page of Google, or Elon Musk of Tesla, and we'll keep going while you're typing that in. We'll talk about Jeff Bezos right there. Isn't it interesting, William, that Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world? He's worth over $100 billion. He owns the largest company in the world, and he only owns 16.9%. This is the key here. Thanks, Gene. We see 20%. Appreciate that. We're going to find out about Mark Zuckerberg in just a minute. What's interesting, and the reason why I'm talking right here, right now, and of course it's William's presentation, is this is how I met William. He was at a mastermind and he was speaking, and this is where I asked a question to him, and I said, William, thing is, I don't want to give up that much of a company that I'm building. And pretty much, he slapped me on the head with the answer to this thing, and, said, wealth comes by, one of two ways, either giving up parts of your company or selling your company while you're growing your company. And when I looked into these numbers here about Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, and Jeff Bezos owning 16.9% of his company, he was able to raise money to help build the company. This is, Josh, you said Zuckerberg 60%. We'll find out now. This is what blew me away. And so, William, I'll let you go through here and finish the point here that you're making. But I think it's just important for us to see that our wealth gets created by bringing in investor money that helps us achieve our vision. While that money comes in, it values our company more, and that creates a flywheel, and our wealth gets created there. While we're bringing that money in, and you still maintain control of the company. So
that's correct. Now, so Mark Zuckerberg owns 20% of Facebook. Okay.
So, Gene, you got that right. Josh, you thought Zuckerberg owned 60%. So, isn't that interesting? Facebook, something part of our lives, he owns 20%. And that's it.
Larry Page, 7% of Google.
Pretty shocking to see that, I'm sure, for a lot of you.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. 7%, and he's worth $58 billion. I wouldn't cry about that.
No, not at all.
Okay. And now, and don't forget, that's actual equity. You got to think about how much he makes every year on this, the distributions.
And his salaries. Yeah. That's not just what he's worth. Yeah. That's what he's worth. And he gets a paycheck every week.
Yeah, and there's the dividends that get paid out by the company every year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Elon Musk is at 27% of Tesla. Now, I want everybody to stop and think and remember the cap table. Remember how as your ownership diluted, your valuation went up. So Elon Musk is sitting here worth $20 billion. He can sell another bunch of stock in Tesla, raise a whole bunch more money for Tesla, and his net worth is going to go up. Think about it. So, with that being said, I'm going to go on to the rest of the training. So here's a recap. What we've talked about are the 8 primary internal practices every company must have to achieve success. The 4 primary external practices they must have to achieve massive success, and how to create wealth using a cap table so you understand where your real wealth is coming from. It's not owning the company. Now, here's some testimonials from a few of my clients. Davin Michaels, Brittany Turner, and I can't think of the last guy's name right now. But they're all the last guy down here. He was actually, he trains people. He's in the real estate industry, and he trains people, and he trained people all over the world. And when he started working with us, he like his eyes popped out of his head, because he said, you know what? I've been doing this for, upwards of 40 years, and I've never understood this, but he was training people. And so now he's changed his whole mindset, the whole way he's doing things, and it's making a massive difference. By the way, Brittany is on her way to being one of the youngest. Her goal is to try to become the youngest female billionaire in the world. And I think she's turning 30 this year, and she's got one more year to accomplish this, and she's very close to it. We've helped her. By the way, Brittany started her business. She was living in her car, and now we've got her. Well, her annual revenue is approaching $100 million. Actually, it's quite a bit more than that, I think, right now. I haven't kept totally up to date on hers, but she has a huge opportunity that will likely take her beyond the $1 billion mark in the next year, and she's only 30 years old. So we're now close to wrapping up the training, but remember, I still have the giveaway for everyone that stays until after the Q&A. Now, I hope you all found the training informative and of high value. I sincerely hope you are leaving here wiser than you were at the beginning. And so I want everybody to please type yes in the chat box if you learned at least one valuable lesson during this training. Remember, I asked when I gave you this high value training to give me 10 minutes to discuss my new product. If you found this informative, stick around for the Q&A. If not, you can get off now. For those of you that are excited about what I just taught you, type yes in the chat box. I'm now going to take 10 minutes and discuss my new product that is even more exciting. So,
all right, William, I know because you're not seeing the chat, you're in full screen mode. So let me let you know what you got. You got Stephen, Josh, Darren with an exclamation point. Yes. Joel, Max, Bev, David, Diane, Jean, Stephen, RK, the list goes on. Bill, who likes to put the one in there. Julie really loves you. She's just blowing up the chat today. Yes, learning so much. So, and Nelson BR, many people there. So everybody's excited for that. So thanks, everybody. Glad you liked it. And remember, stick around after this. We're not just going to talk about the product. We're here to answer your questions. So while William is
get your questions ready.
Get your questions ready
I'm
because
looking forward to answering the toughest questions you can come up with.
All righty. So go ahead, William.
Okay. So let's talk about what we're offering. Okay. I've got a course I've created, and it's got 15 comprehensive lessons. Now, this course is called Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training. So we want you to understand the investor's point of view. So the first chapter is understanding the financial risk for investors. This is so important because if you can put yourself in the investor's shoes and understand how they see risk, it makes it so much easier for you to be able to go to them and raise the capital, and it makes life so much easier. Okay, next thing is defining your business. You've got to really have your business well defined so that everybody can understand what it is you're doing. Because when people understand what you're doing, they'll jump on board and go with you. Next thing is setting your goals. And we set milestones, we set goals, we do a whole bunch of different stuff with people. And it's all about making sure your goals are small enough that they're achievable. If you set big goals and you don't reach them, you get discouraged. So we coach you and guide you in setting small goals and high-fiving each other and doing all types of stuff every time you achieve a goal and build up that momentum. It makes all the difference in the world. There's a corporate structure. And this is another area. So many people are just, they've never been trained. They don't understand what good corporate structure is. They don't understand what all these different things are that protect you, your family, your assets, and everything from the time you start the company to the time you sell the company. And should anything, heaven forbid, go wrong during the growth of your company, because there are times where companies have big issues that have to be dealt with. Okay. Next one is the composition of the management team. We want you to really understand how important the composition of the management team is, and we go into a lot of detail on that. After that, we get into understanding your market, because when you're talking to investors, you've got to be able to come across clear and succinct, so those investors feel comfortable and confident in what you're talking about. And then there's finding your target market, because most people, they take a shotgun approach and they shoot for everything under the stars. And we want you to be able to target in and find your niche market. Okay. And we want to help you learn all the things you need to know about creating strategies and tactics, because so many people use these words, but they don't know what they really mean and how it really works inside of a company. Then we want to help you understand what it is all about, creating your key financial assumptions. Because when investors are looking at your stuff and they're considering things, boy, those financial assumptions become important. And by the way, when I use the term investor, I want you to understand this includes a bank. Even if you're going out and getting a bank loan, maybe you're getting some credit cards, maybe you're doing different things to help your company grow, these things will protect you in those early stages as well. This is not just for a company that's already doing $1 million or $5 or $10 million in revenue. This is for everybody, no matter how small your business is, because these financial assumptions will help you be wise enough in how you use the money that you do raise, whatever form you raise it in. We want you to understand what investment grade financial projections are and how you build them. Because when you build financial grade and financial projections, it is so important to the investment community out there, be it bankers, be it investors, whatever the situation may be. Okay. The next thing is how to choose the correct capital for your company. You heard me talk about all the different forms of capital. Well, believe me, you've got to understand what all these different forms of capital are, so you know which one is the right form of capital for your business and where you're going. We also work with people that are in nonprofit businesses, and their source of capital is also extremely important for them to achieve their goals. Okay? How to use your investment grade business plan once you've completed it, because it takes a lot of work to build it, but it's more important that you maintain it and use it properly so it generates the value you're looking for. And then how to attract the capital.
I hate to interrupt during the pitch, but that number 11 right there, I don't want to just roll over that. How to choose the correct capital for your company. That right there is just worth the price of investment. William, how many times, because you know I'm very well connected in the industry, and whether I have somebody say that they're going to take their company public before they even got some investors, or they're looking to bring on a partner and give up half their company for such a small amount of money. How many, you probably see more mistakes when you first meet somebody about the way they raised money than people actually doing it right?
Oh, yeah, it's probably about 98% of the people do it wrong, and there's maybe 1 or 2% of the people that do it right. And if they do, it's typically because they've got somebody mentoring them or coaching them and doing something, because there's very few people. Believe me, I went through these gauntlets. I made all the mistakes we're talking about. That's why I know it so well. And I'm going to help make sure that everybody avoids these mistakes.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. So the next one is the 8 important pieces of information investors seek. Yeah, there's little secrets out there that investors don't come out and tell you about, and we discuss it in here. Okay. And then there's the negotiating for the capital. This is where so many people fall down. An investor says, oh yeah, you want $100,000 or $500,000, and yeah, well, I'll take 50% of your company. It's kind of what you're saying a minute ago, Mike. If you know how to negotiate, you can take them from 50% down to maybe 5 or 10%. But you've got to be able to understand how to do that. So again, I just want to go through this very quickly. There's 15 comprehensive lessons that we're going to be talking about. And this is all part of the Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training. Number 1 is a financial risk for investors. Number 2 is defining your business. Number 3 is setting your goals. Number 4 is corporate structure. Number 5 is composition of the management team. Number 6 is understanding your market. Number 7 is finding your target market. Number 8 is creating your strategies and tactics. And then number 9 is developing key financial assumptions. 10 is building investment grade financial projections. Number 11 is how to choose the correct capital for your company. Number 12 is how to use your investment grade business plan. 13, how to attract the capital you need. 14, 8 important pieces of information investors seek. And 15 is negotiating for the capital so you're able to keep the majority and best valuations you can get on your company. Okay? Now, I will personally teach you everything you need to know through Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training in these 15 comprehensive lessons. Okay? In addition, I'm going to include a copy of my book, Raise Capital Quickly. And in this book, I talk about over 12 different sources of capital and what you need to do for each one of them to be able to position yourself to raise the capital and how to go out and approach the right people. Who are the right people to approach for this, okay? This is incredibly valuable. You can buy this on Amazon. We sell it on Amazon for $97 a copy. So if you want to buy it on Amazon, feel free. The investment for all of this is only $997, okay? It's very, very well worth it. But you know what? Mike twisted my arm and said, William, it's not enough. You need to give him more. So we agreed to do a fast action bonus. So we're going to do a 45-minute one-on-one with myself with everybody that buys the course. So this is a $100 million coaching call because I'm going to teach you in that 45 minutes, not only the questions that you got for me, but I'm also going to teach you how you can scale your company to $100 million if you wish. I'll lay out the blueprint for you in that call and help you realize how you can take your business from wherever you're at today to $100 million. And I can do it in 3 to 5 years. I can show you how you can do it in 3 to 5 years. And the cost for all of this, well, my time for this call is $2,700, but your price is free. Okay. And we're doing that because Mike asked us to. So give 3 cheers to Mike. And so here's everything you get: the 15 comprehensive lessons, the Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training, the Raise Capital Quickly book, and 45-minute one-on-one call with me, William DeTemple, for a fast action bonus. And that's where I'm going to teach you how you can scale your company to $100 million. And again, your investment for all of this is only $997.
But wait, there's more, William. I'm going to jump in here because we didn't discuss this, but I'm going to just let everybody know that. So you get when you buy the course, you get that 45-minute one-on-one call with William. That bonus, and I really did tell William that you need to do that for them. That's incredible. Here's something I didn't tell you, William, though. Anybody that does start with you, just get me a list of all the buyers, and what I'll do is I will do a separate one-on-one marketing plan call with you for 1 hour. So you're going to get William, and then you'll get me as well, and I'll give you an hour of training for marketing after you talk with William to help you put your marketing plan together. So you're getting two calls right now. And just so you know, when William says his value for his hour is $2,700, same with mine. William, as you know, I've done consulting with for Brian Tracy last year. We did consulting for Marshall Silver, John Assaraf, the late Bill Harris. Unfortunately, even my previous partners over at Genesis Digital. So when it comes to consulting, even William is like, Mike, raise your prices or give it up. It's getting in the way of your business. So for me to give up an hour of my time, it's something, if you want me for a day, that's usually the only way I'll do it. And it starts at $25,000 for a day. So You get an hour with me. You get your call with William as well. That's absolutely free when you get started today. With your investment at $9.97. William's also going to give you some different payment options here as well on how you can get started with this.
Okay, well, this one is your field of expertise, Mike. So why don't you take it away?
Well, I asked William to put this slide together because this is something that when you have a PayPal account, you can work with PayPal and you can put this together. It's called PayPal Credit. So if you want to get started today and actually get your call with William, get your call with me, and more importantly, get your Raise Capital Quickly Impact training course today, you can go to PayPal. So when you click the button that you see right above the chat, it's going to open up this page. And I had William screenshot this. So choose the pay in full option, click on the PayPal tab. And then when you go over to PayPal, instead of clicking pay with your checking account or your PayPal funds or your credit card on file with PayPal, don't choose that. Underneath that, you're going to see a checkbox and it says PayPal credit. As soon as you click that, PayPal is going to ask you one question and they'll approve you for up to whatever they want, 5, 10. It's like getting a Capital One card. But what's interesting about that is they will give you a credit line that you can use today. And that credit line will have no payments and no interest for 6 months. That means you can get started with the entire program. You can get your call with William, get your call with me, and you don't have to make any payments for 6 months. And there's no interest on that at all, as long as you pay that off within 6 months. Now, there's a caveat to that. As you can see, yes, you'll get instant access and everything like that, but it is only for U.S. residents. And you must qualify that, it's through credit, but you'd be surprised. We've seen people, with credit scores, even in the low 500s get it, approved for 1,000 to 1,500. So, go ahead and try it. Why use your own money? Even if you were thinking of getting started, I recommend going with the PayPal credit option and, keep your money to do the best you can for your business. And you can pay this off over 6 months, or just pay it off in the 6 months or not. And just, pay small interest charges after that. That's all through PayPal credit. But remember, again, U.S. residents only, and you do have to qualify. So that's PayPal's rules, not ours. Of course, we'd want to give everybody, this option, but again, it is U.S. residents only. So, William, I think you have another slide for people that are outside of the U.S.
I do, but before I go there, I just want to say, from a business standpoint, this PayPal credit, using PayPal credit is very good for you. It does show up on your credit reports. It does benefit you personally. So use it wisely, and it will benefit you. So don't be hesitant about getting it. Okay. So again, the Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training, the 45-minute one-on-one call with myself. And as Mike just offered that, and we got a one-pay option of $9.97 or a 3-pay option of $3.97 if you want to spread the payments over, 3 months. So we're willing to do that and help people because, again, our whole passion is about helping entrepreneurs achieve greater success and growing their business. Okay. So again,
click the button that you see above the chat. That will open up the order page in a new window. Don't worry about clicking it now. It's not going to stop the training. You're going to hear all the Q&A. Don't worry about that. You can come right back to the webinar. You just want to make sure you have that page open. And as William says, if you want to pay in full, choose the $9.97 or the PayPal option. Julie, I saw you said, what about me in Canada? That's why William broke it up into 3 payments for you. Then if you want to break it up, save your cash flow, then choose the 3-part payment option. And here's the recap.
Okay. So here's the recap. Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training includes the 15 comprehensive lessons we've talked about, the financial risk for investors, defining your business, setting your goals, corporate structure, composition of the management team, understanding your market, finding your target market, creating strategy and tactics, developing key financial assumptions, building investment grade financial projections, how to choose the correct capital for your company, how to use your investment grade business plan, how to attract the capital you need, 8 important pieces of information investors seek, and negotiating for the capital, plus the 45-minute one-on-one call with me, and a copy of my book, Raise Capital Quickly, which you'll get a hard copy by mail. So look for the real book. And again, the price on that is 1-pay option is $9.97 and the 3-pay option is $3.97. And As Mike always likes to push me into, we do provide a 30-day money-back guarantee on this. I don't know why, because we've never had anybody ask for a refund or anything else. So, but we do it. And then again, this is one pay option is $997, 3-pay option is $397, and you get all 15 courses. You get the 45-minute one-on-one call with myself. You get the book Raise Capital Quickly, and we will send you a physical copy of the book, as I said. And then as Mike offered, he's giving you an additional bonus of 1 hour of his coaching in marketing, which will help your company grow. Absolutely. So with all that said and done, let's get on to the Q&A so I can answer everybody's questions. So I hope you're all submitting questions into the chat box. And Mike, I'll let you read those questions off to me since I don't have access to the chat box, and then I'll go ahead and answer them.
4 or 5 right now. So we'll start with Linda. Even though she was the last question, it's a pretty quick one. Is your training geared to, but I think for before you get to the 5 million mark, or after, or both?
It's designed for the person just starting out. It's designed, as I said, I want you to avoid problems. I have seen companies where we've been brought in where they're at a few $1 million in revenue, and they've got so many mistakes in their business that it costs them way tens of thousands of dollars to fix the things that they didn't realize they were doing wrong. So we want people that are just starting out,
or not necessarily just starting out, but somebody before they hit 5 million. So if you already have a business, William's not saying this isn't for you. What he's saying is kind of like a golf swing. It's always easier to start with somebody that's never swung a golf course, so that you could tell them what to do without having to unwind the bad habits. But even if you have a business that you've had for 3 or 4 years and you're doing a couple of $100,000 a year, this is definitely for you, because this is really about putting a suit and tie on the business to get it ready.
And Mike, you're right. Whether it's a couple of 100,000, whether it's $1 million, whether it's 5 million or 8 million, this is for everybody, because the fact of the matter is very few people understand all these lessons. There's probably not 1 in 1,000 that really understand all this, because they haven't been doing it for 40 plus years like I have, and they don't know. And those companies that are maybe at the 10, 12, $15 million level even, they're typically the ones that have hit their glass ceilings. They don't know what they don't know. And they try to go out and raise capital, and they can't raise capital because the investors, when they take a look at it, it's not an investment grade company, and it doesn't have all the stuff in place that they need in place to be able to raise the capital. So it's for everybody.
All right, so we're going to go to, I believe Greg had a question over here before. Okay, so Greg said, looking forward to hearing what mechanism would be used to raise money in each of these rounds. So he was asking that question, William, when you were showing the practice cap table. So his question again, what are the mechanisms someone would use to raise money in each of these rounds?
Well, again, we'd have to look at each one, but there's over 200 angel networks just in the United States, and angel networks all over the world. Okay, angel investors are a great source. Friends and family are a great source, and believe me, there's a lot of friends and family that cringe at investing in friends and family's businesses. But if you've got a really comprehensive investment grade package put together, even friends and family will say, hey, this person's really done their work. So there's it.
Hey, William, we lost your audio. William lost your audio. Make sure that your little blue thing didn't go out on the... Everyone, if you're still hearing me, please do me a favor. Type yes in the chat. I just want to make sure you're hearing me. Okay, RK, you're still hearing me. RK, are you hearing William? Okay, so you guys are hearing me. Michelle, can you do me a favor? Go upstairs. Tell William that we're not hearing him, and he needs to make sure that this blue thing didn't get untoggled. All right. So, folks, since we're not hearing William here, we're gonna Max. We're gonna do me a favor, Max. It says your payment didn't go through. Just bear with me just a second, and Max, I'm gonna let you know an email address that you can contact them. So you don't hear William, but you guys are hearing me. Okay, Michelle is helping William right now get, that's my wife, Michelle, helping him get his audio back on. So, guys, I think he probably needs my help. If you give me 30 seconds, I can answer that question, but I also want to get up there and just make sure that he's okay, because we've got to get that done. So give me 30 seconds. I'm just going to go next door and help him. All right?
The computer restarted.
What?
The whole computer restarted.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. You want him to come down?
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's just have him come down. We'll finish it here. Okay, everyone. So Michelle, your payment didn't go through either. If you can explain a little bit more what happened there. And guys, just bear with me a second. I just want to get William. Okay, it made me the room administrator. I wanted to make sure we didn't get kicked out because William was the room administrator. I'm going to have William come down, take off my headphones, put the speakers on so he can hear here, and we're just going to sit side by side and finish this up. So the computer he was on just did a hard reset. So hold on just a second so we get our speakers going. Oh, actually, we don't need speakers. All right. So William, since we're together, we'll talk out of here. The buy button is still up for them, so they're okay. And Michelle, I'm just going to make sure that we're plugged in here. Battery. All right. So William, back to that if you want to sit, back to that question that we had about, let's see here, Greg's question.
I was going through it all.
Yeah.
Just as I finished the question, everything went blank.
Yeah. Looking forward to hearing what mechanisms would be used to raise money. So I think it's important to realize that what's probably more important than the mechanism is being prepared for the investor. So it's kind of like when you're in court, you're a good lawyer. What you do is you rehearse with your client first. You make sure they have the right suit, the right haircut, so they look the best way they can in front of the jury. And in this case, when you're asking for money, it's probably even more important. So I think it's important that people understand what happens when people work with you and go through your training. It's about what I like to say, putting a suit and tie in the company, because when you go and ask for money and they look at your accounting's all screwed up and you're realizing, well, you're just taking money out of your company, not even as payroll. There are so many things, even with a good company, that'll probably scare investors. So you got to get your shit together fast.
That's what we refer to as being an investment grade company. Mm-hmm. Because like you just mentioned, not taking a proper payroll, that's called commingling of funds. Mm-hmm. It's illegal. The IRS loves it because they nail you to the cross. There are so many things that people do wrong. So yes, we help you make sure your company is investment grade, and we help you understand what type of investors you want to be talking to so that they're the right investors for your business.
Okay, cool. Now, this one, William, was probably sometime during your presentation. Linda says, what level is that where you say it's proven? How much proof for how long? So I guess at some point you said something where it's proven. I guess maybe you have a proven business ready to go to investors at that point.
Right. Okay. What we're talking about there on a proven business is it's proof of concept is what I was referring to. So proof of concept is where you've come up with a brilliant idea and you say, man, I've solved this problem and I know people will buy it. Well, you go out and you sell it to 5, 10, 20 people, sell them that. Now you've taken it from a concept to the proof of your concept, and you've actually got clients that have bought your training or whatever it is that you're selling. And now you go to an investor and say, hey, see, these 5, 10, 20 people, whatever it is you sold it to, these people bought it, they love it, they think it's great, and there really is a huge market out here for this.
Okay, and I think another important thing That question, what did I want to say there? What was that question just about? About
Proof of concept.
yeah, proof of concept. I think it's important that we also understand if you have an idea, and there's always a lot of ingredients that go in, but maybe you've already built a company, maybe you were a director of a company or a CEO, or maybe you've already done something before. So right now you might not even have a company, but that doesn't mean you have to go out, start a company and build it to 1.5 million in profits. You can sometimes get money just for your idea if you're the right person or have the right people with you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what angel investors love. I mean, again, it's all about the valuation, because if you can go out and sell some of it and prove that there's buyers out there for it, and you've done the market research to show how big the market is, and then go to an angel investor, they'll write you checks and they'll invest in your company if you've proven your company is investment grade. Because again, you mentioned a couple of things there we haven't talked about, but there's called intellectual property. That could be your copyrights, it could be your trademarks, there's all different types of things that go on. Investors look at every aspect of your business. So have you copyrighted it? Have you trademarked it? Have you all these other things? And it's simple stuff to do, but if you don't think about it, you don't do it.
Yeah, and investors invest in you. They also invest in the management team. So sometimes maybe the angel investor is investing in you, but when you're talking about going out and getting that $5 million, that's probably because you put the right team into place, and they're seeing, oh, he has 7 different people on his team that have built $100 million companies before. And so they're looking at you and your team and all these different things. It's not just simply what's your revenue. There's a lot of different things that are going to make you investment grade. All right. So let's see. We've got, we got Greg's. Kevin has a question here. Does your book include these concepts? Do you have a daily or weekly or monthly podcast?
There's been a lot of people ask me to start doing podcasts, and it's something I'm considering doing, but I haven't done it as yet. The book, Raise Capital Quickly, it talks about over 12 different types of capital, but it doesn't go into the training that Impact Training gives you. Raise Capital Quickly, Impact Training goes into a lot more depth and detail over and above what the book does. So totally different than what the book is.
Okay, so
but they're synergistic together.
William, I'm going to jump to this one right here because this is important. We have 1 or 2 people say that they were having a little problem purchasing because the billing address doesn't match. It's one of those things that happen. So if somebody wants to buy and they're having a problem purchasing, what email address or where should they go for support? And I'll type it into the chat.
Email welcometeam@antirion.com. So that's welcometeam@antirion.com.
Oops, spelled that wrong. Let me edit that.
Spell Antirion wrong or team wrong?
Antirion. Is that right?
antirion.com. Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So if you're trying to purchase, or for any reason you're having a problem with your purchase or have a question about your purchase, please email welcometeam@Antirion. I just put that into the chat for you. All right. So RK says, curious, living in a car to 100 million. I guess that was one of the testimonials.
Yeah, that was
okay.
Great. Well, that was over a number of years. It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, right. What business is Brittany in? What industry?
She's a real estate developer.
Okay, excellent.
She didn't start off as a real estate developer, but she started off doing fix and flip, and she morphed from doing fix and flip into doing infill to doing development. So
built a bigger company in her niche. So Julie says, can you help me on a pitch deck presentation for her company, etc.? I guess that would be something great for her first 45-minute call with you, probably, to discuss.
She can talk to me about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Julie, I believe you're getting in. I saw that you said you were trying, or maybe you had luck with PayPal Credit in Canada. I heard they might have started doing it in 2017. So hopefully you got in, and make sure that you talk with William about your pitch deck in your first call. All RK says, what's the first growth benchmark that a fledgling company is shooting for, and why is it important?
Sales. Actually, the first benchmark you're looking for, when I started my very first company, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and so I just kind of threw the mud on the wall and saw what stuck and so on and so forth. But over the years, and by the way, my very first company, I founded it in the early 70s, and I bootstrapped that company just like a lot of you people are doing, which means you used your own money and you worked 18 hours a day and did all types of stuff. I bootstrapped that company, and over 7 years, I took it from startup to over $12 million in annual revenue, and then we got acquired by a strategic buyer. Now, I want you to understand that $1970, that $12 million company would be worth over $50 million today in annual revenue when you compare apples to apples. So when I bootstrapped that company, we went through all the challenges and everything that your guys and gals are going through. And so I can really relate to what you're doing.
And your last question here is from Josh. Is your coaching only for founders of a company?
No, depending upon the size of the company, we always work with all of the management team in the company. Now, the coaching is a separate issue. What we're doing today right now is the Raise Capital Quickly Impact Training. I hope everybody's able to get in.
And I'm going to put on the slide there for us because I have it here as well.
Okay. So the thing is that we coach. I mean, we coach companies of all sizes. We've got clients that are over $100 million in size that we're doing. Our biggest client that we've ever had, we actually helped him take his company up to over $4 billion of annual revenue. So, but those are fun projects. But what I find even more fun is working with the companies under $100 million. Those are the ones that I really get passionate about working with.
All right, so that wraps up the Q&A for us. So William, I've actually got to push the bonus. You had a bonus that we were going to give after the Q&A as well. So let me just give that here. Guys, you're going to be seeing my screen here, so just bear with me. I'll shut my screen sharing off so we don't have that problem.
Can Susan push out that bonus, or do you have to do it?
I'll do that. I'll do that right now.
You go ahead and do it.
I guess it's files and the 6 secrets. So you should be able to see that right now. All right, so guys, the free bonus, the 6 secrets to scaling your business. William has just popped that in, so you should see that in the download, and you'll also see the button so that you could get access to the course. We're going to be wrapping up in about 2 minutes. I'm just going to check to see if there's any more questions here. I don't see. Let's see if somebody didn't mark any as a question. Yeah, some people didn't mark them as questions. We got one here. What is the best attractive interest to pay for round 1 investors? How long is good hold for the term on investment money?
Angel investors, I mean, if you're talking to an angel network, they expect when they make an investment that they're making that investment for an average of 5 to 8 years. They're not surprised if they have to hold that investment for 10 years or longer sometimes. Occasionally, they love it when they get those early buyouts where something happens in 3 to 5 years. So it completely varies. But again, what we do is help you get there faster. We can help just about any company get to $100 million in 3 to 5 years if they're passionate about growing their company. So it all depends upon you, the founder. Okay. And Michelle, you said it's still not going through, so you have the email now. And I saw somebody we wanted to also congratulate. They said finally got it to go through PayPal. I believe that was Max. Yeah, Max says, okay, it went through with PayPal. PayPal went through. So congratulations, Matt. You'll be getting your call with William.
and with me, and you should have instant access. You should have a welcome email to your course right here. All right, guys. So I think Bill says great webinar. We'll be in touch. Great, Bill. We hope you're a customer here as well. You should see the offer to get started. Just click that now. We will be wrapping up the program. I'm going to be redirecting everybody over. Let me see here if I have a link to the order page. I'll get a link to the order page and redirect everybody when we're done. So, William, wrapping up. Any closing thoughts for everybody? And I'll make sure they see the final price.
Can I be a person that a lot of people frown at and just say nepotism is one of the things investors do not like? Okay. So unless you've got a really super great relationship with a friend or family member or whoever it might be, please do not bring friends and family into the business. If it's a partner, that's one thing, but investors do not like nepotism. So protect yourself. And again, these are simple things that people don't realize that can damage you.
Yeah. And one of my, one of my closing advices is I found out anytime there's an acronym for anything, it's usually something you don't want to get involved in. Whether it's a federal agency or even things now with the GDPR, anything that is put into an acronym is usually a pain in the ass. So keep in mind one other thing. Acronyms, when it comes into a small company, because sometimes they're your brother, sometimes they're family, but sometimes they're just the programmer or they're your accountant, and everybody likes to take this small company and start giving out titles and make this person the CFO, and make this person the CEO, and make this person the CMO, and make this person the CTO, because all they do is they do the technical. They do, they're the developer. Now they're the CTO. Here's the problem that you have with that. When the company starts out maybe a year later, and then you start going to a web conference, and they meet a real CEO or they meet a real CFO, and this CFO is making $230,000 a year, and they're making what an accountant maybe should make, $40,000 to $70,000 a year or whatever. They come to you and they're like, I'm the CFO of this company and I'm not getting paid because you got excited when you first got started and started giving out titles to everybody when they're really just a bookkeeper. They're not your CFO or things like that, right?
Oh, agreed. That is another pet peeve of mine. When I go in and I see people that have given out all these titles, I tell everybody avoid titles as much as possible. Make people at the most a manager. I myself in this company, Antirion, right now, I'm only the president of the company. Okay. And let me just explain. Mike talked about the pyramid a little bit earlier. And a president is responsible for day-to-day operations and looks internally into the company and does all the internal stuff. The company has to grow to a certain level before it can afford to hire a full-time president. When we get Antirion to the right level, we will hire a full-time president, bring a full-time president, and I will step up to be the CEO. And at that point in time, I'm not going to be touching anything to do with day-to-day operations, and I'm going to only be looking at the strategic partnerships, alliances, and other things. So, yes, it's very important, and it's a process. So don't try to accelerate the process because you just make yourself out look like a fool.
Excellent. All right. So everyone, you can get started for $997 if you just want to do the pay in full, save yourself a couple of $100 in the finance charges. Or if you want to go with the cash flow option, when you get to the checkout page, just click the 3 payments, the easy payments of $397. Either option, if you pay just $397, you still get instant access to the course today. And of course, if you're a PayPal, a US resident, click on the PayPal option. You can pay with PayPal either way, but once at PayPal, you can click on the PayPal credit and you can get instant access today without having to pay any of your money. PayPal credit will pay it for you. No interest for 6 months, no payments today, no interest for 6 months, and you get instant access if qualified. So everyone, I'm going to get out of this slide, but the payment button will still raise there for you. If you can, say goodbye to William. Say thank you to William in the chat. I'm going to shut the screen sharing off over here so that we can see in the chat there. Turn screen sharing off. Okay, excellent. So everyone, do us a favor. Say goodbye to William. RAK says, good info today. Thanks, William and Mike. Much appreciated. This was really informative. William, I took a screenshot for you before of this one. Look at this. Kevin says, fantastic webinar, one of the best in the last 20 years. So people are really enjoying this. Thanks, Mike and William. Just came in from Josh. Thank you both. From Linda. Thank you very much, everyone. We're gonna head out right off to the sunset. To those of you that are considering buying, click that button, get started today. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. You want to get started, get your call with William and me and get started with the course immediately today. And for those of you that did buy, we appreciate it. We'll be talking. We'll be in touch soon. Look for your welcome details for your course right now. And for those of you that didn't buy, we want to thank you and hope that you had a good time with us today and at least learn something valuable, and that's what we always want to provide. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Any questions, you can email us at welcometeam@antirion.com. Bye-bye.
Bye now.